all good things must come to an end. And while Cisco Packet Tracer has served us well, the networking world moves on fast. It's no longer enough to rely on a single vendor environment. If you're looking for one platform that lets you integrate multiple vendors, imagine running a Fortinet firewall alongside a Cisco or a Juniper switch, then EVNG should be on your radar. Plus, if you're aiming for certifications beyond just a Cisco track, EVNG gives you the flexibility to broaden your skill set. Now, in this video, I'll not only walk you through setting up EVNG, but also show you how to get VMware Pro at no cost using a completely legal, no hack key method, ensuring your entire setup stays legit. And to make things even simpler, I'll provide you with a link with a shared drive which is packed with essential images so you can get up and running right away. Now let's dive in and take your networking labs to the next level.
Before I get into this video, I want to show you what to expect at the end. So this is basically a setup that I had before. Before I wipe it off and actually start installing a newer one with you at this point, let me show you what it looks like. In this case, I just have a VMware Workstation installed with a EVNG running on it. So once I have it up and running, it gives me an IP address that I can go to. So I can simply go to that, sign in, and it gives me a setup. Pretty straightforward, like what you do in Packet Tracer or any other GNS3 or CML if you've tried one. It has nodes that you can dive in. Now I can add more nodes if I want to. What's very interesting here is if you look at the amount of options that you get, I can have Arista, Aruba, Checkpoint, Cisco, obviously, that's still here if you want to have Cisco in your environment in this case. And I can have Fortinet, I can have Juniper, I can have Nokia, I can have Palo Alto. The list is on and on. So all these vendors you can learn once you have the image into your topology, and you can create a topology that you think is maybe relevant to your actual setup or the one that you're trying to learn. I just turned the firewall on, for example, in this case. Once you see that I have this Fortinet, I can bring up the CLI here. I can do a show system interface, a question mark, that tells me that the IP address that the DHCP has got is 192.168.136.129. That's exactly what it is here. And I was able to log into the firewall using the same username and password. And I'm actually in there right now. You also get an exposure to the GUI interface, not just CLI. And this is pretty amazing. So if you're practicing Fortinet certification, and it's a great tool. And if you just want to learn how to configure a basic firewall without touching it, that's another good way to do it. I just wanted to show you before we dive into the video that what exactly can you expect at the end. The whole idea of this video is to make sure you get up and running with your EVNG setup. What will we talk about? Where does EVNG fit really? Why to choose EVNG? Key features and benefits, files that you need for your installation, and walkthrough for the whole setup. To answer the first question, where does EVNG really fit in? I would say it almost depends on what are you trying to do. If you're trying to do some sort of multi-vendor support, which is most people these days, you can't expect everybody to have Cisco today. It's expensive, and it's not the only vendor out there. There are other good vendors, Fortinet, Juniper, Aruba, HPE. They're all taking their own market share. So you got to learn everybody. That's the reason I think the one and the single most reason I would really go with EVNG. Packet Tracer, yes, it's very lightweight, very good to test some of the Cisco configurations if you like to. CML, again, great option. And now with their 5-node free setup that they have given us, it's even better. It just depends where you are in your journey. If you're trying to learn other vendors except Cisco, I think EVNG fits in just fine there. Why would I do EVNG? Hands-on learning. Build realistic network labs like what you did for Packet Tracer if you have tried those without any expensive hardware. Obviously, it's all simulation based. If you're trying to do any certification, not just CCNA or CCNP, maybe Fortinet certifications, maybe Juniper certifications, or Arista certifications, flexible scenarios. Now you can design topologies that mirror your real world networks. I could easily say, okay, let me put a Fortinet firewall behind there is a Cisco distribution switch followed by Juniper access switches. Now I've thrown 3 vendors out there, but that could be my setup. So I want to see if they all work together if I want to try and test a certain protocol. that's another good option to do it. What does EVNG really offer? Multi-vendor support. You can run, as I said already, Cisco, Fortinet, Juniper, Palo Alto, more in all, just in one place. It has a web interface that I just showed you. You can configure and manage labs through just your browser. Scalable topologies, you can expand your environment. It comes with two versions. It comes with a paid version, which is professional, and a community version. Community version gives you about 60 nodes, which I think are more than enough for any lab that you're trying to work on. You can share those labs and you can obviously learn together. So what you're going to do here, we're going to do the installation. We're going to download the EVNG, boot it up, import and manage all the images. We're going to try and see how we can add different vendor images to organize your lab, because it does not come with that. It just basically comes with just the setup, and then you need to add those images in order to get them inside your actual setup. And then we'll quickly talk you through some basic interface walkthrough. So what do we really need here? We need a few things here. We need the VMware Pro. That's the first thing you need, is because that's on which your EVNG works. You can use the free edition. That's what I was going to be using. You can use 7-zip if you want to unzip your images. SCP is your file transfer. We'll talk about that more. Is basically how do you import your images into the EVNG system. So that's where you use the SCP. And what are some of the files that you use for installation? I'll show you that. And then obviously we're going to walk you through this whole setup. So let's get going. So if you notice here, what I've done is I have a folder here where I have set up the EVNG installation. In this folder, I basically have two files that I really need. I need the VMware Workstation to actually install the EVNG, and then the EVNG Community Edition ISO. This, I've just downloaded the actual cookbook that walks me through. It's pretty much like a user guide. Let me show you how do I get all of them. Let's start with the VMware first. So first thing you want to do is with the VMware is you want to go to this. Now what VMware also did, if you don't know this, is VMware was just brought up by Broadcom, and they have given the Workstation 17 Pro for free. You heard me right, it's free. You don't have to go to the internet looking for those keys anymore. All you need to do is you need to click on, depending on if you are using a Mac, then you need a Fusion Pro. If you're using Windows, that you need a VMware Workstation Download Pro. You click on that, it takes you to a website basically where you have to, and you'll have to create an account here. If you haven't created one, you can just create one. It's free, by the way, and then that's about it. And then you see which version of VMware Pro do you want. Now, initially I had the 16 running, but let's make the latest. So you click on this, and then you get that cloud option there, and then you click on it, and that's how I got my latest file. And this is how I get the file that I showed you. For EVNG, basically what you do is you go to the download option, and you're looking for the direct link for the community edition. If you look for the Pro, it has some extra features, but it's a paid version. That's why it says license required, but we're just going everything free here. So we're going to go with this option. You click on that, and that will give you the other two files that I showed you. Back into my installation file, these are the two files we were getting by this. It does have a good documentation. So I like to go here, documentation, and basically it just shows you the installation piece. Now let's start installing. So I have double click on the VMware Workstation. Like most of it, I'll accept it and I'll just go next. Don't have to worry about anything else. It's pretty much a default setup from end to end. So we'll just go through all that. And I'm just upgrading my VMware Pro setup, and it should be done. Perfect. So once you have your workstation WorkPro 17 up and running, as I said, it's free right now, so you can just use for personal and it won't ask you for the key. And now we're ready to start installing our EVNG. Now, in my case, you see that there are two machines already here. You might not see anything there, but that doesn't matter. All you need to do is just click on a new virtual machine here, Custom Advanced. And I'm going to go ahead and say I will install operating system later. Linux, Ubuntu 64. Now, if you're wondering, like, what are these options and I want to see these options, you can also always go back to the cookbook, as I pointed out before, on the EVNG download community cookbook, and you can just follow this installation on point 3. That's exactly going to walk you through the same things that I'm doing right here. Click next. You can drop your virtual machine wherever you like. Now I have more processors, so I'm going to say, okay, 16, one here. I have 32 gigs on this, so I'll say, okay, how about we use 16? Use network address translation. Select the recommended option here. Recommended option there as well. Create a new virtual disk and store the virtual disk as single file. And I'm going to make this 200 gigs. I have enough capacity on this. You see how much you have on your laptop and you pick accordingly. And now it's ready to go. And I can customize it once more just to make sure that I have select a couple of options here. If you go processor, you got to make sure that these two options, the virtualize Intel, this is the virtualization option. These two have to be checked on. When you go to the CD option, make sure connect at power is on, and you give it this ISO. Now in my case, I'm picking up the EVNG installation folder that I showed you before, the one we downloaded. So you're going to pick that up. The rest pretty much stays the same, nothing different there. And I can say close, finish, and it's created. Now let's click on power this machine on, and it's going to start the, and it's going to say install the EVNG community option. So sure, let's go ahead. Now I will kind of skip through some of the installation part, just don't want to sit you through the installation here, but I'll make sure I select the right information and show you what options am I picking up in this case. Right now I'm going to select English here as my language and done. And it's saying, are you sure you want to continue? So I'm going to hit the tab here to make sure it's on continue instead of no, and we go on with the installation. It's going to take some time to go through the motions. It's perfect. It's asking me to log in. So the login here is going to be root. Password is EVE. Didn't like that, so I'll try that again. Root is the password, EVE is the password, and it's gone through. So making good progress here. Still going through the motions. Perfect. The machine is back here. Now, if you notice that it's saying that use HTTP and then there is no IP there, that comes in later. So it's going to ask me for login again. Let's use login, exactly the same what we have been using. It's root EVE as a password. Now it's saying type the root password. So I'm going to go EVE. I'm going to go tab there, EVE. EVE. Something very important here, I would not change the name here, and I'll tell you later why when we start to import some images. Keep the name as it is, just leave it as EV-NG, hit OK. So again, everything default. I will leave it at DHCP, let the virtual machine handle it itself. You have an option of static, but if that's what you want, there is an option as well. And I'm not going to use any NTP, so we'll leave it blank. Direct connection, yes, OK. And we're good. The machine is kind of going through the motions. I'm going to start up again. This time when it comes back, I'm hoping that it's able to pull up a DHCP IP and it's going to show me the IP that I can use. It just showed up. It said, I'm going to give you 192.168.160, 136.130, right? That's my IP. Now, what I can do here is I can go to that IP, 136.130, and that should give me the machine. If it does that to you, I usually would try a different browser. I have ran into that before. Nothing to worry about too much. So let's try this here instead. I'll go HTTP. I'm going to take that and go 130. And I'm able to get it. Now, username here is admin. Password here is EVE, native console, and you're in. I don't want you to remember my password. Now, there are a few options we can, maybe in future videos, I'll walk you through how do you create different folders and stuff like that. But right now, we'll just get into a new lab. You can just click on new lab. You can just say, or let's call it networking basics. and we save it, and we're good to go. If you look at adding a node, I don't see much options. It's only available when it's blue. Right now, the only blue option it gives me is if I have just a PC that I can add, and that's about it. That's all I can do right now. But obviously, I need more than that, right? Some person, I don't know who that person is, has actually put all these images in a Google Drive. I'll give you that link. I want to give credit to whoever the creator is. I don't know who, so I can't really comment in this video, but I'll give you the Let's go through the motions of how to add a basic switch first, layer 2, layer 3, and then we'll also add a Fortinet firewall as I showed you in the beginning of the video. So in order to do that, what you will need to do is you will need to actually have software called SCP. Straightforward. If you want to download it, you can just go to SCP Win. That's the official website. You can download it. I already have it, so I won't go through installing that. Something to remember is on your left side, which is here, is your actual PC that you have. Right side is your connection to your actual EVNG. Now, I've pointed this to my folder, which is images, and I'll show you that just on the desktop. I've dumped some images here that you see. When I go back to my folder, that's what it's opening up. So I can connect to my now here. Right, so machine can be just created as, so this is where I'm logging on the machine to. So I can, it's pretty straightforward. Right? You'll see that I have few machines, but you basically put the IP address of that same EVNG. Now this is the same IP that I'm using here to log in to my box, and so I'm in now. First thing first, let's get going. So first thing I want to do is, as I said, we're going to drop some switches. Now, Cisco has done some IOU images, which are basically Linux-based. These are a little thinner, I would say. When I say thinner, means they have most commands work for you. Not all of them, but it's fast, so it doesn't put a lot of load on your virtualization setup that you have. So we're going to start here, and we're going to start setting up these machines here. So we're going to pick up this folder opt. I'm going to pick up, and then the add-on, and then the IOU. And then in the bin, this is where you usually drop it. Now, in my case, I had dropped it already. You can just drop them here, right? Or let's say if you didn't have anything in your case, you will have nothing there. Right? Let's drop something here. We'll take all this, drop them here. It'll just transfer it. You don't have to take all the files. You just need one of them. But something important that you need is you need this IOURC file, because this file actually is your license file. And I'll show you what this has actually. If you click on it, and if you click on edit, you'll see it says license, and then it says it's licensed to EV-NG. And this is the reason why I told you not to change that name, because if you change that name over there of your machine, you'll have to change it here. But I have tried that. Sometimes, let's say if I make a different name, I say EVE-C E, which is community edition, and then I try changing it here, it still gives me an error. So basically what would happen is you will try running the switch, it will turn on, then automatically it will turn off. It will say that the license doesn't work. I'd like to just leave it the way it is so that it's a little less hassle for me. In case you want to see it more closely, I have it here. This is all that it says. This is the name I'm talking about. So you got to be mindful here. Once we're done this, one more thing that you need to do is there is also another command here that you have to run to fix permissions. Now, this is something that you can also do in case you want to run an update on your virtual machine. Sure, let's do that if you want. So we're going to log in again. You're going to say root EVE, and let's go edit, paste. That's just upgrading if there is any more upgrades for me. So it will take it, says all looks good, nothing much done. Next I can do is I can do that command. And this is absolutely needed in order to fix the permissions once you've done the copy. Every time you copy a file into your virtual machine, you have to make sure that you run this. Okay, if you don't run this, it will not work. So you got to be just mindful of that. Now, once we've done that, moment of truth, let's go back, node, and I'm hoping that this time I should see another blue, which is Cisco IOU. I can call it switch if I want. I can, and it also has some nice images. Because I'm using it as a switch, I'll pick up a layer 3 switch maybe. So they have some inbuilt images already. So you can pick the one that you, let's say, let's look for a switch, which is layer 3. Oh, actually, it had a layer 2, layer 3 switch also. Was it that? Sure, why not? Let's pick up that. And I can start it. And also, I can double click on it. And if you see, it is up and running. I can run some commands. Usually the Cisco ones that you like. Show IP interface brief, is it? There we go. I see that it has 4 interfaces. They're up. So you can start putting more commands in there, right? I won't go into configuration. That is one part. Now let's go ahead and do a Fortinet firewall, which kind of completes my setup, right? I have a PC that is connected to a switch. I could have multiple PCs here. So I'm going to just test with one. Now I need a firewall. But obviously, if I go to node and I go to Fortinet, which is most common firewall that you see in the networks today, it's not giving me that option, right? When I go FortiGate, it's grayed out right now. So that means the file doesn't exist. Now we have to do is we need to go ahead and actually use our software to move it here. Now let's look at some more images. So I'll say, okay, go one back, please. And I have some images here. And same way, I'm gonna go here to add-ons and I'm gonna go to Q. And if you see that this was an image that I put earlier, so let's say you don't have this here right now, I think. So let's say it's nothing there. Now this is where I need to put my couple of things you gotta go now. If I go back to my cookbook, where I was showing you, one of the documentation also has the naming conventions. When you use these specific devices, so QEMU folder name in EVNG, the name has to match the beginning especially. So in this case, Fortinet, it has to say Fortinet in the beginning. Fortinet and then a dash, and then after that could be whatever. And the name of the file has to be this right here. Okay, so these are the two things you got to keep mindful of. So let's go back now. In this folder, I have done it Fortinet and then dash, and then at the behind of it, I'm just saying FortiGate, and I'm using the version that I'm going to be putting in. And if I look at the file, and I'm using the same file that I was showing you before, okay? So it's there. I just take it, I drop it there. It's there now. Don't forget, you got to go back again to your virtual machine, run that permission command again. So this time I can just do up arrow. You should take it. And it's taken it, no errors. I'll go back to add node option. Let's look for our Fortinet. And I have it, right? Similarly, if I want to pick up a different image that I like more, I can pick that up. But if I'm happy with this, I'll say save, and it will give me a Fortinet image. Fortinet logo and a firewall. So sure, I can connect. Now, in order to connect it also from, so one more thing, we will talk about that other option later, but let's see, let's just quickly do this. So I want to create a network here, leave it at the management at this point. I'm not going to explain this now. In future videos, I'm going to talk about that. Let's go save, connect that here onto port 1, right? Turn it on. Sure, let's SSH into it, right? So I'm logging into the FortiGate right now. It's booting up. Now default is admin, and there is nothing there. So you have to set up a new password. I'm gonna just make one up. You make one up and you remember it, okay? Now once you've done that, then what you can do is you can run some commands which are in here. what you would need to do here is you'll say diagnose IP address list. That should give you what IP address is it getting. Now, in this case, the port one is getting a DHCP on 192.168.136.129. Now, if I try to log in right now to that same IP, this was perfect. So in case it doesn't go in, I'll tell you what you need to do. In that case, you'll have to run a couple other commands, which will be, I'll just show on the screen in case, and you, because I ran into that issue before, is these two. So you got to go config system interface, edit port one, set allow access, ping HTTPS, HTTP, and HTTP. So this is what I added at the end in case, because this is originally missing. Okay, so in case you run into that, once you do this, admin, and then the password that you set up, I'm going to do all that later. I'm going to say OK, and I'm in the firewall. That's exactly where we started the video. Right now, if you go back in your topology, you have a Fortinet connected to the cloud. I haven't connected it to the switch, but yes, you can connect to the switch, and then switch connects to the PCs.
Congratulations. You've just taken the first step into a truly versatile and powerful network lab environment. In this video, we covered how to set up EVNG, acquire VMware Pro legally at no cost, and even access to essential images that need you to kickstart your multi-vendor topologies. Now, if you're ready to dive deeper, don't miss the part 2, where I'll guide you through the EVNG management web interface, explore the topology page, and break down the sidebar tools that will streamline your entire lab experience. Now subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video to help you master EVNG from inside out. Bye for now.